Hello everyone and welcome back to the second game of my run in the July monthly tournament. The second game in our first best of 3, in which we have to face Komandant to move on to the round of 8 or the quarterfinals. And we are already in the lead 1-0 after a win on Tannenberg against Commandant's Nov. And now we are in Orsha East. The way we ended up here is also documented. We ended up here after banning Chetrin, Chibuchin, Bobre, and Orsha North. Orsha North and Orsha East being the most balanced maps out of these, I would say. And then we had a couple of bans as well. Opponent then picked third mech first. We picked 8th Indian first. They picked third mechanized and balanced. And so we picked VFV as a counter to balance, or at least an income that can match up with it. Never pick VFV for victory first, but against balanced or against Vanguard, I would say it's somewhat playable. If the opponent plays Maverick, never pick VFV. It's just too much of a disadvantage in B-phase. But against balanced, I would say it works pretty well, especially since the latest small nerf to balanced. Bans, obviously, also rather standard from my side. Task Force 45, 97th, 2nd Infantry, 26, 44, 28 Jäger. On the other side, a couple of unique ones like 2nd Blinde and 12 SS, but 17th, 78 Storm, 3rd Fallschirmjäger, and 6 Airborne are rather standard ones as well, but they left open some of the top divisions, and I would say 8th Indian is one of those. And I would say also 3rd Mechanized currently not quite up there. Still has some power. Sherman's still strong, but we have Sherman's as well. And the infantry is not what it once was anymore, since the nerf of Molotov Partisanis ain't as amazing anymore. And the rest of the combined arms is a bit mediocre, I would say. It's still not bad division. I would say it's a B tier division. Maybe C tier, higher C tier. But 8th Indian is just a powerhouse. The infantry is amazing. The artillery, the 140mm artillery pieces are super high value for like 80 points. You get a really high caliber weapon with decent rate of fire and good accuracy with radio. You get enough radios as well in this division with all the leaders and stuff like the 75mm autocannon car. And up in the north, we will get some Indian assault pioneers to help out with CQC against any Partisanis on the other side. You get 9 of them in a cart. In the B phase, we will have 18 assault pioneers as well to try to deal with this forest on Orsha East, where you always have to either commit heavily or don't commit at all, is usually the way. Going half in this is often a recipe for disaster and losing a lot of units. And yeah, opponent only setting 4 units up in there, but we set quite a bit more there. Should allow us to win this. Because it's only one flag, but once the side who wins here can push a bit deeper later on, but also the other side has an insanely hard time ever coming back into. So if you give up on it, you have to consider that and try to win into in the center, which is the more important part of the map in the long run. But you always have to make that decision about that forest and north, making Orsha East a really interesting map because it's pretty versatile. Like all areas of the map can be played. And losing decisively in any of them is rather rough. So you have to find a perfect balance for your units. For example, losing the center is super brutal as well. If the enemy can come in here, it's pretty much GG. Same over here. They can put units into these 3 lines. Snipers here helping us out already pretty well. Autocannon has to disengage as assist 3 is around, shooting down the road, but makes it out. And now can try to deal with this half-track. Half-track disengages as well though. Rifle Piats coming up. Enemy Ognomachikis versus Assault Pioneers going on over here. What's in the south? Enemy has 2 Ognomachiki teams as well, dealing with my Indian Assault Pioneers. One of them goes down to it though. Indian Assault Pioneers having more SMGs helps them out quite a lot in dealing with them. Indian scouts in the south using their sniper rifle ammo. The issue with the Indian scouts is that they only have 20 shots, so they often ran out of ammo early on. Hits 3, getting hit here in the rear, as they have 4 hit points, so they can also take a bit of damage, so they survive longer than normal sniper teams. And Cis-3 goes down. ZSU M17 is a unit you never should take. It's sadly rather underwhelming AA. It was good back in the day, but currently 50 cal AA is just not good. And my artillery piece already tries to shoot into the town, but the rifle Piats come up. They have 2 brands, so they have some firepower. I take them in A because I want some anti-tank in A. The Gurkha rifles are just better when it comes to firepower compared to them. Like, they have the special traits, they have 2 more men with Thompsons. So they can do more than these rifle Piats, usually when it comes to damage output. But you only have 2 cards of them, and I put them in B and C. Because in B I need really effective infantry with the low amount of income. And then in C you get a lot of them. So rifle Piats in A, so they can deal with armored car rushes, as the Gurkha rifles only get anti-tank grenades, which are much less reliable than Piats. Piats not amazing, but they have the range to at least deal with autocannon rushes into you quite often. Or make the enemy consider if they really want to go in there. 6-pounder, he has to push, go back. Good push here by Komandant. Putting up quite a couple of forces there. Looking is also running onto my scouts who are out of ammo here. Indian scouts in the middle, also nearly out of ammo. Rifle Piats trying to push in, but there are still a good amount of forces around here. Meanwhile in the north, I thought there would be more units there, because Partisanis are pretty decent here. But they weren't, so I considered making a move there as well. Whilst I brought in my other 2 artillery pieces I get in A, splitting them up so counter-battery ain't as efficient, and then setting up artillery barrage. As the start, yes, there was some combat, but it's still a relatively slow start for this map, so I thought I would have time to bring out the artillery and use it throughout the game. Rifle Piats here will get surrendered, so a bit of an over-eager push there by me, allowing my opponent to get some solid traits there as well. SU-76 coming around. Autocannon car. Maybe a bit open there in its position. Hit them. 34 trying to push in onto my 6-pounder. 6-pounder nearly falling to the Cis-3 gun. Cis-3 gun shots flying slowly though, so the 6-pounder luckily gets the kill on the T-34, taking away the enemy's tank here, which is quite nice. But the Cis-3 at least gets the kill onto the 6-pounder, so I will need more AT further down the line over here. But another 6-pounder. 6-pounder is really good against T-34s, especially the ones with only 75 frontal armor. Having the perfect penetration power for that with their normal AP shells, who still really reliably penetrate. And second T-34, sadly for my opponent, falls as well, taking a lot of the power out of the push in the south, though the push in the south still is somewhat scary, even without tanks. MG42 here engaging onto my units. Guardia DP is pushing me as well. Cis-3 helping out too. So pinning this down, killing this off won't be easy. Cis-3 at least is retreating, so fire can now be put onto the Partizani. Assault Pioneers and Indian Rifles trying to deal with the Guardia DP over here. That's the sniper tries to finish off the MG42. Shot by shot, but not getting any good kills here. Flamer though helping out a lot, dealing with the Guardia DP. Sniper shot coming out once more, and the Guardia DP gets surrendered. Partizani MG42 also falling here, and the 12-12 is achieved again. This Commandant had a 13-11 for a good while. Artillery though now coming in onto all the infantry in the center, putting a lot of pressure on there. Sherman here doesn't even spot the SU-76, and my reaction here is slow. Shooter is killed already, and the SU-76 is trying to get the kill there. Will eventually get it as it has the penetration power to do so. Yes, and there we go. My unit falls. Commandant once more with mortars. Seems to like them. For the northern part, RM38s would have been nice as well. You'd get them in the 3rd mechanized as well. Not for the cheaper price as they had been before, but even for the normal 20 points they're worthwhile. Meanwhile, Partizani killing off my Flamer units over here. I tried to run away with my spotters, as I only have 3 of them, and one is in the center, one is in the north, one is in the south, to give radio everywhere is the idea of them. For 15 points, having some reconnaissance that just stays in some, usually not some action heavy areas of the map, like this, giving a bit of line of sight, but most importantly giving radio on the front line for all around the map for 45 points. But sadly Partisanis will be able to take out the spotters here before they can get out of range. So I will need other means of radio. Luckily the autocar is already in the south. Boston bombers coming in as well. They are pretty cheap here. For only 105 points you get 4 227 kilogram bombs. And the enemy didn't have any AA set up yet. And I had a Bofors coming up. And could have invested into a fighter as well if the enemy came up with any of those kind of units. Su-76 though not falling to the 227 kilogram bombs. Another M17 coming up, but that's, as I said, not good AA. You really don't want those. You want the normal 37mm with the Soviets. M17's just not doing enough damage to anything at the moment. Meanwhile, I finally put the push onto the north as I had the Sherman coming around as well. And realizing that there was not that much around. Could have probed for that quite a bit earlier and gotten that flag with a bit more timing on taking down the enemy already earlier, but I will get it in the end, and that's what's important. Putting some more pressure onto the opponent to capture stuff elsewhere on the map. As now I had the advantage in the north. And the Su-76 still being alive in the middle is a bit annoying. Sherman is around though, as a replacement for the one that has fallen. And I will try to kill it off with the 140mm. Trying to hit the enemy mortars as well, but good movement there by Komandant. Really not the worst micro when it comes to keeping units moving in and out of artillery and so on. But these artillery guns still so accurate, and if they are split fire, the enemy will have a rough time trying to disengage. Evergreen does it as well, but runs into the Sherman, and as it took some damage from the bombs as well, it goes down. Rajvetgado retaliate with a bazooka shot onto the Sherman, so another Sherman falling in the center, leaving me with only infantry and an autocar here against the enemy Sherman coming up. So a bit of a nasty position here. And some Guardias also try to come in over here, but we have some flamethrowers and some Indian rifles around as well. And Indian rifles are better than normal rifles as well by 2 more hit points and a Thompson instead of a Sten, so they have some okay firepower in CQC with the Bren and the Thompson combined. So Guardia DPs here falling relatively quickly, as these are also 2-star veterancy. With a Dingo commander coming up to get them even higher. Now at 3-star veterancy, they will annihilate Guardia DPs on 0-star veterancy relatively quickly. One of the mistakes here in the deck building of Komandant, using 0-star veterancy units. Not something you do in 1v1, showing you that Komandant mostly played team games so far, but yeah, it's lovely to see a new player, as I said in the first video already, coming around into the competitive scene, and Komandant for sure shows promises of becoming a pretty good player with a bit more practice as well, a bit more knowledge about how 1v1 function. Amcha moving around here in the south, another good counter push coming up. Ognomachiki luckily got too close. In these building blocks you always have to be 1 apart to actually be able to hit with the flamethrower, as they are too close for the flamethrower to use it without harming themselves, and all units have self-preservation on. If the TNT unit would hit itself with TNT, it doesn't throw the TNT either. So maybe currently the idea against TNT units is just rushing them within the 5 seconds they need to throw the TNT, but I don't think that's quite worthwhile either. Well, it depends on the TNT unit, I guess, because some of them will just annihilate you if you keep on running into them. Amcha coming around, getting the autocannon car killed, but the autocannon at least got a penetration and I moved the second one around, so still a good trade for me in the end. So losing a radio in the center is a bit annoying, but I have still more radios around for my artillery to stay accurate with their shots. North is captured, that's the 1311 that we see here, and a Hurricane coming around as Komandant is a bit over-eager with the Sherman here. 2 Shermans trying a bit too much here, and Hurricane comes in with the side shot. No AA outside of the ZSU M17 around, and you can see it does some stress damage, but not really a lot, and the damage output itself of it is rather lackluster. Indian rifles and Gurkha rifles coming in to try to support the units around here. Going in deeper. A couple of PTRs are around. That's the F-22 AA piece. Artillery piece comes in the rear for maybe some counter battery action. EL4 with defensive fire, shooting on a position where there is nothing at all anymore. Bit annoying. But yeah, that's what you get for not microing it yourself. Like, people tell you defensive fire is all you need to do with artillery. That's a lie. Defensive fire, if you don't micro your artillery, you don't have the micro for your artillery, like I did in this moment, is fine. But directly micro artillery is still way better, as it allows you to fire in front of units and so on. Things that defensive fire can't do, hitting moving targets and like expecting where the enemy will be in a second. And your artillery starts firing. Gurkha rifles coming in the rear. Shermans hit the half-tracks, beating them back as they were pulling me before. The Dingo needs to move over to the Bofors. It was retreating from the Sherman threat that came up here, but luckily the Hurricane did deal with that. And we are at 1311 now. As mortar fire is coming in from my opponent still, but all BL 70, BL 4.5 inch are now shooting around the map, trying to hit some targets. And the Gurkha rifles also are capable of dealing with enemy infantry relatively well in the center as well. Indian rifles and Gurkha rifles and sniper leaders should be able to deal with partisans, as partisans only have Mojin Nagants versus Bren guns and sniper rifles here that have some more firepower, even if not in the forest. So partisans obviously are dangerous in the forest itself, so gotta be careful there. Gurkha rifles with 3 Thompsons, 2 Brents, decent firepower in CQC though, as Brents can shoot with below 100 meter, as they're an automatic rifle, unlike other LMGs like the DP or MG42s, who can only shoot at ranges above 100 meter, but have way more firepower on those ranges in return. Bren is decent on 750 meter, but it's not great. If the enemy has LMGs, you will usually lose that gunfight. Ruka tries to deal with another Sherman. Sherman gets the shot and gets the kill though, but at least 1 penetration on top of it again. So this Sherman will have an easier time dealing with it if it comes to that matchup. Rifle leaders though shouldn't be the front. Sniper rifles fire under below 100 meter as well though, so at least they have 7 damage output here. But yeah, coming in piecemeal here was a bad idea by me. Enemy moving 1 more partisan in there as well. Gurkha rifle and scouts coming up to help with the push. North is under control still, and the enemy doesn't have the forces to do anything against it. So the chances for Komandant are in the center and in the south. F-22 now coming in with counter battery fire, forcing my BL-45 to reposition as we are on B-phase. And B-phase is obviously the weakness of my division with V4 victory. But the 17 pounder here will shoot at a Sherman, and the Sherman will need to disengage ASAP or suffer the consequences, as a 17 pounder, when it hits, will deal a lot of damage. Both sides bringing up an off map at the same moment. Opponent bringing in a 152mm, we are bringing in our 150mm or 173. I'm not quite sure what the off map all in with this is again. 17 pounder gets the kill onto the Sherman. Another Hurricane coming around, trying to find another Sherman kill around here. And the enemy AA is still really lackluster, still only at ZSU M17. Sherman versus Sherman action going on here, but if one of the opponent already has been penetrated once, and our Sherman is 3-star veterancy, so it gets the kill. Hurricane gets a kill onto another Sherman, which at least gets the kill on our leader beforehand. P-39 trying to come around to kill one of our Hurricanes. So Micro has to be on, as we have a 3-star veterancy Bofors though, next to our commander here, and the Hurricane avoids to be killed. Bofors directly hitting the P-39. With 3-star veterancy, the accuracy of the Bofors is so high that it can easily kill a P-39, especially when it flies directly over it. And 59 is on. Opponent under a lot of pressure now. Needs to be really careful to keep this game in balance. And nice off map here is, and the push of us from this middle hill feels like the last shot for Komandant. As in C phase, we also will go ahead in income again, and slowly but surely take over from them again. But right now they have the income advantage Big SMG engaging onto the Guardia DP over there as well. SD2 moving forward, and the off-map will hit here. But our off-map is coming in retaliation as well. And currently there's not that many units here to push with. So Perry's coming up to help out later, but there's also still a lot of our infantry around here. Hurricane is around to try to punish anything that will try to rush us here. And Gurkha rifles with veterancy versus Guardia DPs without veterancy should work still decently for the Gurkha rifles. Veterancy being a big problem for our opponent, being a disadvantage there in a lot of matchups, not bringing quite enough veterancy on the units that they have around. Emcha here, running by our Sherman, not stopping, and now as the turret faced in the wrong direction shows side armor, so our Sherman gets the first hit. Tank trying to move around, and the Emcha gets the kill. Hurricane coming around in the rear. Okay. Artillery shooting at the F-22. Couple of BL-45 hitting down there as well. Off map coming in on the Komandant. Another artillery piece here hitting as well. And yeah, 13-11 going on. Su-76 gets hit, and the south starts to collapse as the 17-pounder did its job really well, killing off a couple of tanks, and the autocar helped out dealing with infantry. Off-map in the center, really the last hope for our opponent, but our off-map stops any advances that could be made there. And our artillery also now starts to deal with the enemy artillery as well. BL-45 shooting onto the F-22 here in the rear. Off-map coming in, well placed, but our forces over here still alive. Next off-map coming in for those as well, and I'm starting the counter push already, as this was the last off-map of our opponent in the center. And there's no armor on either side around there anymore. Overall, really low armor saturation around the map for both sides. Indian field engineers coming into the south will try to push through the forest. And the artillery here is just nasty. Like, if you want to play Indians, use these things. For 80 points, you get just so much value. It's just lovely. And yeah, they are one of my favorite units in the game currently. I mean, yeah, I know a lot of people don't like artillery, but good artillery pieces can make a lot of a difference in 1v1 as well. At least on the, like, not quite top level of play. And against Gonzo and so on, it's a bit harder to use because they're just even better at dodging stuff. Everything there is constantly moving. Though I guess if you're really good at artillery, you can also pre-aim a bit better. I mean, I'm already pretty decent at that, I would say, but I can still step it up. My artillery play is good, but not perfect, that's for sure. Like, I'm using smoke, for example, way too little. Someone to watch there if you want to learn how to use smoke play to nearly perfect extent is Puri Tanner. Absolute shout out there. One of the best smoke users in the game. Enemy trying to do another bombing run now, but Spitfire's around. 3-star veteran CAA pieces around. And Spitfire going for the wrong target, but only an M17 here down to try to stun it, and that takes too long for doing it. Spitfire gets the kill onto the IL-4. Took all its 20mm ammo to kill the IL-4, as the IL-4 is a resilient plane. At least the IL-4 stopped my push for a while here, but they will come back. Killed off quite a bit of my infantry as well. Losing an IL-4 though means that the next wave of bombing runs will be even easier to stop. And now my artillery also has zeroed in onto the enemy frontline units. And we'll come in there with another barrage. As all of these artillery pieces start flying. North, super silent. South, we got the 59 for now. And artillery hits the Guardias over here. Hits the units on the front line. Gurkha rifles moving further as well. As the artillery lands on them, allowing my Gurkha rifles to push even deeper. And deal with units that can't fire back. Hurricane trying to come in. Will get pushed back though. They don't find any targets. Artillery now still hitting the front line. Maybe hitting myself there a bit. Yeah, that was not perfect. Classic friendly fire accident there. But it's World War II. That happens. Gurkha also elite infantry. Used to being under fire from all sides. Still losing some there. At least they're not surrendering as they are fanatical and raiders. Super, like, this is such a good value squadron. I know a lot of people are like, oh yeah, but they're Commonwealth infantry. Yes, but they're Commonwealth infantry on steroids. Like, having Raider, having fanatical, and having Thompsons makes them so much better than other Commonwealth infantry. By a good margin. Plus 12 hit points, so they are chunkier than most other 25-point infantry in the game as well. Gurkha rifles over here. In a fight with a Guardia DP. So this is not the optimal position either. Some leaders and so on moving up would be nice as well. Artillery gets the enemy AA killed off. Like this is really one of the power functions of artillery as well. Killing off enemy AA and then allowing your bombers to and fighters to go unmolested in the air, allowing you to win any air fight. But yeah, target priority with AA is anti-tank gun positions, then AA pieces, and then enemy positions of infantry, and then tanks. Like stationary heavy tanks, always a solid target as well. Try to soften them up so that they either die directly to the artillery, especially if you have a caliber that is bigger than 100mm. That's doable. Or they at least take some damage, so that you can follow it up with only needing one penetration instead of two penetrations with your tanks against them, and making the matchup easier. And even especially good if you can stress them out a bit, so that your tank then can go into an engagement where the enemy is stressed out, either falling back and not shooting back, or at least stressed out so much that they have lower accuracy and your tank has a better chance of winning the fight. Like, those are the priority lists for artillery. But as a tank comes last, first comes anti-tank gun position so that your tanks can push onto enemy infantry afterwards and bully them. And then AA position so that your bombers and fighters can get through. And then if you have a division that is super heavily reliant on air, then this shifted. P-39 here, getting behind my Boston, Spitfire on its tail already, but sadly not quite in time to save the Boston, though still getting the kill onto the P-39. 15-9 happening. Gurkha rifles pushing through the open. Artillery from the rear, by now in really high numbers. 5 guns around, and supply trucks around as well to support them. Hurricane will try to come around to hit the Sherman. Losing line of sight there for a bit though. But infantry in the center now in huge amounts. 3-star veterancy Gurkhas versus 0 or 1-star veterancy infantry on the other side. Will be a tough fight for anything standing in their way. Hurricane's not quite finding the Amcha, not quite able to align there. But there's 16-8 already happening. And only 3 minutes on the clock for my opponent. And with the 50-minute time limit, even if they could now equalize for a while, it would be super tough for them to come back and pushing us, especially with a division that is better than A and B phase, like 3rd Mechanized. I also wouldn't have recommended my opponent to play balanced with them. Would have recommended Maverick, I would say, or maybe even Vanguard, as they are a division that has a really cheap, affordable combined arms, but it doesn't really have an great following on that. Similar issue of 9th Cavalry or so, though it has it going a bit better than 9th Cavalry in my eyes, as the Guardia DP Partizani combo in my eyes is better than Kazakhi infantry at the moment. But yes, by now Spitfires take anything out in the skies that comes up with their lovely 20mm Hispanos. Absolutely lovely plane. Love it in War Thunder, love it here. One of the most beautiful planes in my eyes ever made. The Spitfire Mach 5 beat drop. The wing shape is just so smooth. Everything on this thing looks nice. Other than the nose is a bit clumsy. later Spitfires do it better, but the guns look nice. The wing shape is just an absolute gorgeous way of engineering and art in my eyes as well. Hurricanes coming around here. Another IL-4 trying to get a bombing run through, but the Gurkha rifles now have pushed the center really hard. Reinforcements of my enemy not able to keep up with losses, so the front line is melting. A couple more guided DPs for last counteroffensive in the south. Field engineers and Gurkha rifles ready to welcome them there, though. And the 17-pounder just did a lot of overtime in this game. So many MCHAs trying to come in here, but this is a field you can't cross if the enemy has such high level AT up on this hill. Making the left side of my eyes also slightly better on Orsha East, like this position over here, is one of the reasons I would say so. Though in the center, I guess the red side has a bit of an advantage with the town. So yeah, overall, a balanced map. I like to play the side I played on a bit more, but I could see why you would like red side more as well. With the 86 going on, 20 seconds remaining, and with a win here, I will qualify for the next round. So yeah, best of 3 with a 2-0 finish here in this. And the opponent for the next round will be Conyux, another player who's relatively new to Steel Division, though invested a lot of time into 1v1 lately. Been learning a lot from people like Gonzo as well in the chat, asking a lot of questions, and has some experience in RTS before, so won't be an easy opponent either. Komandant, yeah, in the end, KD pretty clear. Has a lot, still a bit of way in front of him, learning the game a bit better, but still gave me a solid fight here. So yeah, artillery pieces and anti-tank guns really doing a lot of work here, and the Indian infantry and mice just great value. So GGVP to Komandant. Hope to see him back in the future. Hope to play Komandant again as well, and then maybe he can make me pay for beating him here in the next one. That's it. I hope to see you all around. It's a 2-0 now. Conyux waiting in the next one. Let's see if we can make it deep at this time in the monthly tournament. Bye bye, and have a great day. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe so you see when the next round is up.